It's a great point.
I think the enabling piece of this is actually really critical to the conversation, because I think a lot of products fail for business plan reasons, not for good idea or bad idea reasons, right? Which is, you either decide you're going to fund certain kinds of thing, or you decide you're not going to fund certain kinds of things, and that's a cultural approach. And actually pharma, we talked about serendipity before, and whether it's luck or not, actually planning to listen hard to what just happened and then deciding whether that's a good thing or a bad thing actually is part of pharma's history. A lot of products have been repurposed by pivoting within the market.
Should pharma be more of a, should more pharma companies, should J&J be more of a platform company than a product company?
How would you define it? I mean, so give me what you'd like to know the difference of it. So if
the key discriminator, to my mind and to my colleagues who work in this area, is that platforms enable users to create value for other users. Products are about creating, delivering on an explicit, specific value proposition, and building on that over time and incrementally improving.
So Amazon, in your view, is a
platform. Netflix.
Because of the Amazon cloud product, not because of Amazon.
No. Amazon services, absolutely. The recommender engine. I mean, Amazon reviews, recommendation engine. I almost never. Sorry.
So a J&J or any large pharmaceutical company, from the perspective of a biotech company, is a platform in the sense of worldwide registration, phase 3 trials, and marketing.
Right.
Okay, and they will source innovation, all right, and run it through their platform. The extent to which a J&J is a discovery platform, that used to be the case. So when it was a chemically dominated industry, okay, novel biology to make it into small molecule drugs had to go to the pharmaceutical industry because they controlled the chemistry. It becomes a biologically concentrated industry. There have been transformations in the pharmaceutical industry. You know, there's a reason why it started in New Jersey and on the Rhine, the big chemical companies. It's now in Boston because of the biomedical complex. It moved from a chemical basis chemistry to a biology-based industry, okay? So that they don't have that kind of platform you need for drug discovery anymore. I need 5 medicinal chemists, and I've got an army working for me at Wuxi in China, okay? Even 15 years ago, I had to pack our own parachutes when it came to chemistry, all right? Okay, I don't have to do that anymore, okay? So that the platform of, I would argue, of pharma has been more in these commercialization aspects, the regulatory aspects, the reimbursement aspects. And rightfully, what they are saying is we want to look to the world to source our innovation in the earlier stage stuff. And pharma, you know, back in the day is, well, you can't do chemistry. Well, we can actually do chemistry, and we can do recombinants. Well, you can't do clinical trials. Well, actually, we can do clinical trials up at least through proof of concept. They're not willing to let the younger company come further into the value chain because it becomes more science-based, more biology-based. The nature of a phase 1 and phase 2 trial is very different than it used to be when it was more phenomenological, all right, and now it was more phenomenological, whereas now you actually have a molecular basis for understanding the patient and the nature of the interaction of your API with the patient's biology. So that changes.
I'm curious. Comment on that. Yeah, so I'd say that's exactly right. You know, as we would see it and say it ourselves, that was wonderful. The piece that we have been unwilling to let go, to say, you know, what does it take to be good at this, is the belief that we still have to strive to be as dedicated to the pursuit of what makes it work and the underlying biology as anyone else we might be interested in working with. Because this stuff is hard to know it when you see it, right? It's not what you can sort of get out of a book. You have to feel it, right? You have to have people who are in there struggling with the exact same struggles. But unfortunately, and this is, you know, back to how one gets lucky or certainly gets a sufficient number of outcomes from this to be able to justify the expense. But you need to have people who are trying to do it themselves. What our organization has done, I think maybe better than most, and maybe it's a part of its long history, has been very humble about how likely it is that we're ever going to be good enough at that to be able to grow at the rate that we have to grow. So the organization has industrialized the notion that, you know, there's going to be remarkable discoveries anywhere. We must be always we're unwilling to ever concede the fact that anyone can be better at us ever at the back end of all of this, right? We have to be the best in the world at anything that's sort of post-phase 2, but have let go of the notion that we will always be the best in the world, and it's been a long time ago. But the things that are on the front end of discovery, and provide that as a maybe a loose analogy to what it is that Amazon uses to create the means by which it distributes its creative content.
And this takes leadership, because it's a transformation in their sense of self-identity. So it used to, be how many times you'd go to Merck, which in the 80s, 90s was the scientific leader, certainly under Roy Vagelos and whatnot, okay? But you'd go to Merck, and Genentech was this way too. Science is done everywhere, okay? We recognize we are very little and that we welcome science from everywhere. Oh, but by the way, we're better than you, right? And if you look, they did very, very, very little collaboration, either of those organizations, even though, as it turns out, most of what they're living on now is stuff that they in-licensed, okay? J&J had a very different business model, right? J&J actually operated through business units of very, very different nature, okay, and recognized what they didn't know and what they needed to do. So as you have the transformation of the industry more into biologics, they go out and acquire Centocor, who was the pioneer in monoclonal antibodies, and that becomes the center. Harlan Weissman, who was the head of R&D, then becomes the head of at Centocor, becomes the head of R&D for a while to help reshape that industry. You saw that in a couple of other places. When Wyeth acquires Genetics Institute, the whole head of all the leadership of the biotechized, okay, Wyeth, right? And of course, Pfizer is the antithesis to everything I've just said, but that's